Good evening. Welcome to the Toronto Debating Society. It is March 11th, and we have an impromptu debate for you this evening. The motion is Ontario should get rid of daylight saving time. In an impromptu debate, the participants have only been handed this topic about 20 minutes ago, so all of what you're about to hear is just going to be completely off the fly. So, let's hear from the Prime Minister. Speaking for 7 minutes, Gurjo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us for tonight's debate on Ontario should get rid of daylight saving time. By Ontario, the Canadian province of Ontario should its obligation, duty, or correctness get rid, formally put an end to daylight saving time, the practice of advancing clocks during the lighter months so that evenings have more daylight and mornings have less. That's the definition of the motion tonight. And we hope to have a very constructive argument around this motion. And from government side, we are proposing that Ontario should get rid of daylight saving time. There are a few reasons that we're proposing here. So first thing is, we should keep things simple. That it is one of the things that we have made like complex systems to make life more complex, to have a daylight saving time phenomena or this thing to have in our lives. And we are also saying that it's better to have lighter mornings. And we have reasons for that. And third, we are saying it's less hassle to keep the time same, not to forward your clocks by 1 hour and do all the hassle and all the confusion in life. So I will go about these points and with my worthy member of government, we will try to convince the House for this motion. So first thing, most of the jobs and most of the work that is being done is during the day. And most of people go to work in the morning. Kids go to school in the morning. And it's better to have lighter mornings so that there are less accidents, there's more light on the road, and kids are safe when they go to school and when the buses or cars are out there. And the kind of economy we have right now, and especially in Ontario, we don't have too much agrarian and kind of economy, and we have mostly service economy, and most people work in day jobs. So most people are going to work early in the mornings. So it will be better to have lighter mornings. And also, it is not that we are going to have too much less time in the evenings. We still, right now with the daylight saving, we still have, by summer solstice, by 21st June, we still have like evening light till 9:30, till 10 p.m. But still we're gonna have it till 8:30 or 9 if we don't do it, and we still are gonna have lighter mornings. And the kind of hassle we save. I know that in my organization, in IT systems, we have to do special implementations to put a lot of effort to do the daylight saving time so that all our jobs, bad jobs, and every systems, they are on time. They are reflecting correct time. So we spend thousands and thousands of dollars to do that. And you can see that number of organizations that run on IT systems in Ontario and how much money is being spent on just for the daylight saving time. And talk about your personal hassle. So we have to, I know that we have smartphones now that we can say that these get adjusted with themselves, but we still have so many other clocks, like a clock in my car or clock in my oven, like somebody here as well, that they don't change by itself. We still have to change them, change the time on them, and it's so confusing. You get late, often you forget, you're looking at your car and you think, oh gosh, I'm on time, but later you find out, no, you're 1 hour late. And I hope, Mr. Speaker, that didn't happen to you. And that's quite possible, though. But that's one of the hassles that we have to go through when we talk about the daylight savings time, and other things, and see the simple things in life. right? So you can still have lighter mornings. You have still daylights going to work, and still, while you're not, and still you can see that by 9:30 or 10, you can still enjoy the stars in the sky. You have best of both the worlds, and often people say that barbecues done in starry lights are much better, and our whole thing is about that we don't have that kind of economy that people work outside, or kind of a green economy that we need to have longer days, and it doesn't serve much for us to have this to do this thing every year, and doesn't make sense to us. We say it might be possible for other states, why they have it, but we think as a government we shouldn't have this phenomena every year to make our lives complex and say more, and even if you calculate, say that for 8 million Ontarians, if everybody has just say that one watch or kind of one clock that they need to set time again for the daylight saving time, and even if it is 10 seconds that it takes, see the amount of time being wasted to that activity that we don't need that much. So we are saving money, we are saving time, we are saying that there will be better road conditions and driving conditions in the morning, and we still don't lose too much by doing this activity. So there are so many things to gain and nothing to lose by doing that, and we are making life much simpler and better for Ontarians by proposing this, that we should get rid of the daylight saving time and keeping things simple and better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe. Well, as the Prime Minister returns to his zone of the stage, I'm now going to take a look at the other zone on the stage here and invite the Leader of the Opposition, Michael, to attend the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, you are now about to see the light. I believe the Leader of the Government was late getting here tonight. Obviously, personally has a strong difficulty adjusting to the very thing that he would like to end. Ladies and gentlemen, if you listen to nothing else tonight that you hear, this one argument will alone convince you to vote for the opposition. The others will just be sort of like a bonus for you. And it's this. The government states we have nothing to lose by changing to daylight saving time. Well, ladies and gentlemen, do you believe that Ontario could do this in a vacuum? What would happen if Quebec and Winnipeg and the United States do not do what we do? Our economy would be in turmoil. We are an economically subservient province compared to the North American economy. If you recall, New York a few years ago decided they wanted to extend daylight saving time by 3 weeks on either side. They did it. Who jumped in lockstep? Ontario. Why? So did all of Canada. Why? Because we couldn't afford to be out of sync with the dominant economy, our largest customer, our largest import trader, the United States. We can't do this unilaterally. The government didn't even mention anything about economics. That alone should sway your vote. All the rest that we're going to say tonight is a bonus. The second thing, those of you who will remember, and very few of you were around then, daylight saving was started as an economy measure to save energy. The philosophy was, if it's lighter when you wake up in the morning, you will use less light, we will save energy, when energy was very expensive and all generated with water power. Now, lights are a minor part of our energy use. Our air conditioners, our coffee pots, our stoves, our coffee makers, our toasters, all the crap in our house, lights is a small proportion. So the economics, when 200 years ago or 100 years ago when this started, lights was one of the very few things that people used electricity for. If you could preserve lights, it meant something. Now, it's a minor part. So the economics, which is why it started, means nothing today. So the government says, oh, it's a hassle to change the clocks. Well, get a life. You know, if that's your biggest hassle in the day, in the case of one person who spoke earlier who had this problem because the one thing that didn't change automatically, the stove screwed him up. I use that as Exhibit A. Ladies and gentlemen, there's so many reasons here. You know, the government, did they even mention that all of the advantages are completely negated? You know, in the fall, all of the disadvantages they said that we have by changing to daylight saving are the opposite in the fall. So everything that they argued is changed and argues against them in the fall. They didn't mention the fall, did they? That's part of it. You can't have one without the other going back. They didn't mention that. They forgot that argument too. They forgot 3 arguments. They forgot all of them, frankly, but it was nice listening to. Good effort there. Ladies and gentlemen, this week we woke up. It was early, light when we woke up. Wasn't it wonderful? You can find your keys because it's light. You can identify who you're sleeping with because it's light. You don't have to turn on any lights. It's safer to drive to work. You make sure it's your car you're getting into in the morning. Another very important for those of us who have mental health issues, if you've ever heard of the seasonal affective disorder, the body is greatly affected by a lack of sunlight. Ladies and gentlemen, when you wake up and it's bright, you are starting the day mentally healthy. Now, did they mention anything about mental health in there? No. We all know that this is a very large part of life. You wake up, it's bright, you just feel like you can do anything. Unless you're manic depressive, and then you realize that you probably can't. But that's another whole issue. You know, they didn't mention anything about the fall. You know, they didn't mention that wonderful feeling in the fall when those of us who like sleeping an awful lot get a whole hour of extra sleep, and we get to go to bed an hour earlier. Isn't that a wonderful bonus? So in the spring you wake up and you feel great. In the fall, you can go to bed earlier. You get a whole hour of sleep. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, we have so many arguments where I have problem organizing them, as you can probably see.
Wait till I get up there.
And the other thing they haven't mentioned, and you know, they're talking about a longer day. Ladies and gentlemen, the day is defined from when the sun rises until it sets. Now, how can a changing of a little dial on a machine affect the length of the day? Think about it. They said, oh, well, that longer day is terrific. The day starts when the sun comes up and ends when it goes down. All we're doing is adjusting when it starts and when it ends. Ladies and gentlemen, don't believe that they're saying a longer day is better. If you were seduced into that argument, you should be ashamed of yourself. The day is not longer. All it does is shifts the hour, and it shifts them in so many wonderful. Does that mean I'm over? 1 minute? I just have to think of one more argument, and I'm out of here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to continue with that point. They saying that the longer day is beneficial. There's no such thing. The unbelievable benefits of getting up this week, who didn't love it? And in the fall, it's not a big deal. You're ready to sort of hibernate as Canadians do for a whole winter, and let's get into this a little bit earlier. So, ladies and gentlemen, if we get rid of it, we'll be completely out of sync with the rest of North America and, in fact, the world economically. That alone puts this argument to bed. As I said, all the rest is just a bonus. It started out as an energy-saving tool. It means nothing. And air conditioning uses so much more power, it doesn't matter if your lights are on or not. It's an incidental use these days. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. Leader of the Opposition. And now, the second speaker for the government, please welcome Estrida.
Ontario should get rid of daylight savings time. The Prime Minister argued that we should keep things simple. That's correct. The Leader of the Opposition stood up and said we mentioned nothing about fall. Well, fall just duplicates the numbers. So, for instance, in Ontario, we have 8 million people. If each person has 1 clock to change, and it takes 30 seconds, I'm assuming they're very fast to change their clock. I said 30 seconds, not a minute, not 2 minutes. That equates to over 2,500 days. Now, you understand why we didn't want to mention fall, because that now means it's over 5,000 days because we have to change it in the spring and we have to change it in the fall. So then, thank you, opposition, for shoring up our side of the argument. Yes, Ontario should get rid of daylight savings time when we think of the fact that there are at least 8 million clocks to change. And I say that's a conservative estimate. Imagine if everyone had 3 clocks. That's 24 million clocks to change. The oven, the car, the wristwatch. And we'll allow the smartphone to change itself. So, now as for the second argument, lighter evenings are better. Imagine all the barbecues by starlight. With that glass of French wine and the Parisian potatoes. So, yes, there's something to speak about. You'll have a bipolar evening, so to speak. You have a bit of daylight and you have a bit of darkness. For those who like daylight and for those who like darkness, as opposed to going to bed at 10 o'clock and still saying, well, those curtains still don't make it dark. As for the opposition, I refute that the economy would be in turmoil. CAMH says only 1 out of 5 is mentally ill. So maybe the 1 out of 5 might be in turmoil. But the other 4 of us are diverse. Some of us deal globally, not just in North America, so then we'll adjust. We'll just reschedule our meetings, because we'd still have 6 hours working together at least. So within that 6-hour period, of course, we could touch base with each other. So then, no, since we are so diverse in this service-oriented economy, the effect would be negligible. And as for the bonus point, there's an energy savings. That's why we went to daylight savings. I have to question if the PM is the 1 out of the 5, because in winter. In winter, everybody needs heating. There is nobody in Ontario that goes without heating. Oh, I forgot 10 City. Sorry about that. But they have heating. They're fires. So nobody can go without heating, because they would also go into the Eaton Centre or into a government building or to McDonald's, because they do have to urinate and defecate. So yes, everybody in Ontario needs heating. So, but the reverse holds true. Not all of us need air conditioning when it comes to summer. So daylight savings occurs in spring, summer, and fall. Summer and fall, we just pop the windows open or push the windows out or slide the windows one way or the other. So we don't have an energy savings there. So the issue is summer. Summer, not everybody needs air conditioners. So once again, the Leader of the Opposition was actually shoring up our side of the argument. In closing, I'd like to say that, of course, Ontario would be better off without daylight savings. Think of all of our time savings. Vote for the Prime Minister and his side.
Thank you, Estrida. We're now going to hear from the seconder for the opposition, Jim.
Just this thing. You can put it on.
Sure. Push the big button to start.
The big one.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, honourable opponents, ladies and gentlemen, the government has set out its case, and its case is fairly weak and wimpy. The main point of the government's arguments appear to be that we want a simpler life. And this is from a self-confessed IT guy. What part of the 19th century is he from exactly? Like, life is complicated, and it's going to get more and more complicated. Simply by saying, let's not move the clocks forward or back, this isn't going to make things simpler. The Prime Minister also pointed out that it's very expensive. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're living in the 21st century. Everything, more or less, everything these days is hooked up to the internet, like the member of the opposition, member of the government mentioned smartphones. Well, they don't need to be adjusted. Member of the opposition, member of the government, that's me, member of the government said, I'll get there, don't worry. I've been off for a while. That 8 million people have to reset their clocks. No, they don't. Typically in Ontario, 8 million people are in the 21st century, and maybe there's 100,000 clocks or 250,000 clocks that need resetting. The rest of them are all pretty much automatically adjust themselves. Now, the Prime Minister also said that...
Source. That's a smartphone.
That's a smartphone.
No props.
That's the source. The Prime Minister said that it costs the industry a huge amount of money to readjust everything that needs to be reset. Well, actually, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to be part of his company because I actually am an IT guy, and I have reset these processes to work automatically when the clocks go forwards and backwards. And I think I charged about $50 for it. So I would be very interested in getting the Prime Minister's business card, because I'd like to charge lots of money for setting all of this IT stuff to right that he says is just taking up so much money. Confusing and complex. It seems to be a big part of what the government is coming out with. It's confusing and complex. It's only an hour going forwards, an hour going back, guys. Like, just how complex is life for you already? Like, you have trouble working out what you're having for breakfast? Is it that sort of complicated? No, ladies and gentlemen, it isn't really a complex issue at all. It's just, let's move the clocks forward because, hey guys, over the next 3 or 4 months, the sun's going to move, and it's going to go farther and farther and rise earlier and earlier, and we're going to get more daylight in the evenings, and that's what this government's trying to stop. They're trying to say, let's not have barbecues at 10, 10:30, 11 o'clock in Ontario. Let's shut them down at 10 o'clock because that's when it's going to get dark. That's what they want to do. Ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your barbecues. Don't let the government just override your barbecuing time and your beer time, ladies and gentlemen. No. Say no to the government. Now, the leader of the opposition has very eruditely and generously identified how Ontario is not just Ontario. It isn't just a small little part that the government is happy to live in, completely oblivious to the rest of the world. The Eastern Seaboard, every clock goes forwards, goes back at the same time as Ontario now. That is what the leader of the opposition was highlighting. We are part of a large economic community, something that the government, while saying this is very expensive, they have no idea how expensive it would be if we were in a different time zone from the rest. The leader of the opposition has also mentioned seasonally affective disorder. What on earth would the government have us do if we didn't have this extra amount of sunlight to use. And ladies and gentlemen, I have to identify for everyone here what has happened since the clocks went forwards Sunday morning. Spring has arrived. It's magic. Like, suddenly the sun's out, suddenly the snow is melting. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what moving the clocks forward has done for us. Ontario is benefiting in many ways. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that you can see that the government has absolutely no position on this. They really don't know what they're talking about, and we strongly recommend you oppose the motion and defeat it this evening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Opposition Seconder. I'd like to remind all participants to refrain from using props in the debate.
I was asked for the source.
I'd like to remind all participants to refrain from using props in the debate. First of all, for the summations, we will now hear from the opposition. Please welcome Daylight Time Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The government tonight is totally in the dark here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and frankly, they could have used another hour here tonight to prepare a better case. Ladies and gentlemen, the member of the government stated in front of you, you were a witness to this comment, that not changing our clocks keeps things simple. Well, that might be fine if you're simple-minded, but I think that most people are capable of handling this minor inconvenience. If you can program your computer and figure out how to do the things of the internet, if you have trouble changing your clock, I wouldn't even buy a computer. Ladies and gentlemen, the clocks change themselves. It's a minor inconvenience today, but greatly affected by the great. Who didn't wake up on Sunday and Monday mornings this week with a spring in your step? It is a great psychological boost. And I just want to repeat, that you can't change something like this unilaterally. There would be great economic consequences, negative. Just look at the chaos Newfoundland has trying to keep in step. Not that their economy means a hell of a lot anyways, but if they did have a good economy, it's 8:30 now. If they don't even keep hours, they say, wow, we're good. They're in another world. Ladies and gentlemen, about television. Who wants to turn on Breaking Bad, find out that it's now Breaking Good, you're an hour late. Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't save energy anymore. It used to, but it doesn't anymore. As we mentioned several times, the positive frame of mind, the extra hour of sunlight when you wake up in the morning starts you out in the morning psychologically alert and mentally happy. That alone is important. And again, I remind you, the government tried to convince you, tried to slip one over that the days are not longer. They are not longer. It just changes when they are.
You'll get the idea.
Thank you, Mr. Leader of the Opposition. And now, please welcome Standard Time Gurjo.
Well, I totally enjoyed the animated performance for the opponents. I just wish that they would have more strong points as well with the performance that could make some sense. Okay, to talk about what opposition is talking about here. So we don't think that make much sense because they have talked about economic reasons, and if it would have such an impact that you need to have in sync with US or New York, then all the world would be changing their time for the daylight saving. I don't think that's happening. And China is not changing its time. India is not changing its time. There are a number of other countries that are not changing their time. So that's not the economic reason that daylight saving is done for economic reasons. And for energy, so quite surprisingly, there are so many evidences, and I think if you can look upon from California and other states that it doesn't save any energy by doing the daylight saving times. So I think that was just a point without any evidence or any source, and I know this is impromptu, but I happen to know about it. and there's no evidence that it saves any energy, and also, and if anything it does it. And other 2 points I will quickly talk about, that we said their lighter mornings are better. We didn't say that longer days and other things. We specifically talked about the lighter mornings, how the accidents will be less, kids will go to school on time. That was the main point we were seeing. And even if anything it does, it creates confusion for different flights coming from the different countries, talking about your economic reasons and tourism, and mental issues, and how preposterous can that be, that one side you are making fun of people for their simplicity and talking about mental issues, and it just to get rid of complexity to make.
Thank you, Prime Minister. That concludes the debate. Please now welcome the adjudicator, Dean, for 7 minutes.
That's why we're all here. Not really. The reason we're all here tonight is to debate whether or not Ontario should get rid of daylight savings time. And being as it's an impromptu debate, that's always more challenging because you only have 15 to 20 minutes to come up with some reasonable arguments and some evidence to back it up. So it was fun. Anyway, it was fun listening to, and I had 2 co-adjudicators with me tonight to sort of go over the arguments and the evidence and our logic in terms of the scoring and the like. So the Prime Minister came out and said, okay, here are my 3 points, my first 3 points. Simplicity, better to have lighter mornings, and less hassle are the reasons, and went to explain the reasoning behind it. So just to start out, that sort of worked out to being 1 1/4 arguments, or sort of 3/4 of an argument. The reason, because simplicity and less hassle are generally the same thing. You're looking to simplify your life and cause fewer problems in your life. And the second point, better to have lighter mornings, was a similar theme in everybody's talk, almost, which is wrong. The purpose of daylight savings time springing forward is actually to have lighter evenings, is to push the sunlight into the evening, not into the morning. So it was entertaining sort of listening to that. Now, has that been stated, that was probably a fact. People got or 1 hour less sleep this past weekend, so the brains weren't quite functioning as far as the debate went. So I'll forgive you to a point, but that's not the reason we have daylight savings time. So everybody lost points. Each side lost points for that. So as far as that goes. Now, back to the government's arguments. Better to have lighter mornings. Children at school working is light till 9:30, and the reason it is light till 9:30 again because of that. There wasn't really a benefit that was strictly stated. Perhaps it was safer to drive, safer to go to school, safer and the like. And the issue of money to accommodate the computers and IT systems through daylight savings time was sort of brought out, but not really, again, stressed with evidence. So the leader of the opposition sort of took that up, and that was the first real solid mention of it. And what it was in relation to other time zones, being the United States Eastern Seaboard, in particular, Quebec, where we have trade. That's the impact of daylight savings, and we should not change it because we are dealing with these people over a border. So economically, it would cause chaos. It was countered further along with China in the summation as a pseudo extra argument by the government side. But again, we're not talking about China. We're talking about Ontario in particular, and the major trading partners are the United States. China, sure, but not really with Ontario. It's more with BC in particular. So the economic argument that was sort of there by the government was really brought out by the opposition, and the time saved in changing the clocks backward forward by the seconder for the government was sort of there, but it wasn't really a big point. The member of the government as well sort of addressed that and talked about the fact that, yes, again, supporting very well the government or the opposition side was stating, no, in fact, that's the economic issue is with Quebec and the US in particular. The other issue was health, so seasonal affective disorder, or SAD, was brought up, and mental illness in general. Talked about affected by sunlight. Again, the idea you have more sunlight in the morning, you're waking up to it, and the like. Again, if it's not there in the morning, that's a problem. But nonetheless, it was a great argument because it did get the government side fighting against it. In fact, saying CAMH says only 1 out of 5 people, so only 1 out of 5 people is actually going to benefit from any light in the morning. So anyway. So carrying an argument to absurdity is I guess actually happening in this case. So that's okay. And again, it was mentioned by the member of opposition, the idea of refreshing our memory of yes, seasonal affective disorder is an important mental benefit for daylight savings time. So the third argument, or the second and a half argument, the simplicity argument was sort of waffled about, and it's sort of, again, really dismissed by the opposition, saying it's a non-issue. So there isn't really much happening. The member of opposition was talking about the fact that, simpler life in 19th century, well, we're not in the 19th century, farming agrarian communities anymore. Saskatchewan doesn't even use DST. So there we are. Here in the cities in Ontario, we don't need to worry about it. And in fact, Ontario actually does have 2 time zones. And as I mentioned, the one part doesn't actually change times in the northwest part. So it's again, sort of a non-issue with the time-changing, time-saved bit. But it was fun to listen to as far as an argument, stringing along through everybody's arguments, nonetheless. And that was pretty much it. The summations from the opposition was good. Government was in the dark, could have used an extra hour to fill out their arguments. It was a good humor on either side. 2 new arguments, one from the opposition regarding Newfoundland, again brought up, and then bringing up, again, the issue of China. So not a good idea, even if you're trying to rebut things from previous speakers. And both went over time. So try to wind things up when you hear that 1-minute bell. Just get your arguments in there. So Parisian potatoes were brought up. That was interesting. References to previous conversations during the actual debate evening was sort of brought in there as well. The confusion about which side was which. Anyway, I'm not going over time. I will finish to say that the opposition won, and the score was 62 to 25.
Mr. Adjudicator.
I suspect shenanigans.
Best debater?
Shenanigans. Best debater was, who did we decide? It was Michael. Yes, we decided Michael was the best debater. Good argument. No.
That's put us in our place, right?
Good arguments. Good arguments. No. Good
No,
arguments.
that's not the debater.
No, that's not the debater. That's for the popular vote. But
Thank you.
anyway, I shall return to the speaker. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, adjudicator.
Totally confused. You see Margie?
The popular vote was determined by a single vote. The vote was 6-5 in favor of the opposition. So the opposition has taken the popular vote as well.
He'll get it. All right.
I'd like to thank several people this evening. It was really a great pleasure.
Please return to your side, Mr. Opposition. Well, thank you very much. So the motion has been defeated by the adjudicator and the popular vote. Thanks so much for coming out this evening. Good night.
Good work, guys.